Okay, so I want to share with you a story that happened to me yesterday. I was in a certain culinary establishment to buy some food for Shabbos, and I bumped into somebody, and he told me that one of my shirim was publicized, and the person who Shiloh was nogea to got very upset, and he thought that whatever. So as I say again, there's four types of shilohs I deal with: real shilohs that I was asked, real shilohs I read about, shilohs that happened to me, and shilohs I made up. And I'm never going to tell you, almost never going to tell you, which one it is. You might be able to figure it out. That's not my fault. In any event, this week I'm going to tell you because if I'm allowed to put the share up, then that's fine. If I'm not allowed to, so it doesn't make much of a difference. But I got a phone call this week from one of my, let's see, I'll be very careful, from a certain person who asked me if I could help a certain person. And this certain person got married this year, and she found out that her husband might not be Jewish. That was the story. It's a well-known story by now, and she had certain halachic shilas, and she wanted someone to take her through the process necessary in the Bati Dinim. But really what she wanted was, she was very convinced that her, what do we call them, Makadish, that the Makadish was not Jewish. And now she's being asked to give a get, to receive a get, and she doesn't want to receive a get because she doesn't believe that he is Jewish. And she says, if I'm going to take a get, I want the ksuba. Right? The ksuba is $36,000. Whoever is interested in sponsoring the ksuba, it would save a lot of time and effort here. So you can, whoever is interested in that, we haven't found someone as of yet who is willing to do that. But Lamaisa, she says, Maman Shach, either if I'm going to take a get, I want a ksuba, and if I'm not going to get a ksuba, then I don't want to take a get because I don't believe that he is Jewish. Okay, so this sparked the shiloh, right? Somebody comes to get married. Do you believe that he's Jewish or not? I mean, he has a Jewish nose, right? He likes matzah ball soup. Does that make him Jewish or not? What qualifications do you need? Now, Baruch Hashem, I got married here in Eretz Yisrael in the Badatz. In the Badatz. Mark Suba went through the Badatz. And they asked me a lot of questions. Yeah. They made me, they were more concerned actually by my wife, who's from Brazil. They made us have Rabbanim be made on us, write letters. My wife needed letters and Adis that she was Jewish. So in a normal situation, there will be a significant checking beforehand. Okay. I won't say any more because I don't want to get into more trouble than I'm already in, but I'm Maven Yavin. The question here now is, but is that all needed? It's practically advisable because you see sometimes something gets slipped through the cracks, but is it really needed? Okay, so we basically have two mahalachim we're going to take in this shiloh, right? And the first mahalach we're going to see is going to fall to the wayside, but it's very interesting. I was in a car with one of Rabbi Yashu's Talmidim, and he said that he was choshesh for Rabbi Yashu was choshesh for this. I also met this week another Talmud Rabbi Yashu who put out 4 svarim based on real psakim that he wrote that we're based in. He says he doesn't remember this psak, so he needs a little bit more beer. But it's based on the Gemara in Yevamos. The Gemara in Yevamos Daf Tezayin on the base says that if a non-Jew comes in Makadish, a woman's walking in the street, and I don't know, John Smith comes up and gives her and says Hayat Mukadeshli Tabazu Kedas Moshe Yisrael, he's a goy gamor, he has on his t-shirt, I am a goy, we call it shitas, but the Gemara says you're still, it's machlokas. Rav Asi says you're choshesh for kedushin. Why? What's the reason? Yaakov, why? Aseres HaShvatim. I remember once I was writing my first sefer, Mizmor Soda, and I went to speak to Rav Scheinberg until one day he said, never come back here ever again. I got really upset. No, because I found out the time, like when he asked for himself, and he used to come. He said, never come back again. So I came back the next day. Anyway, but the point is like this. I asked him a certain shaila, and he kind of laughed. And he said, there's a Sach Yidden in Shanghai. Sach Yidden in Shanghai. And he was talking about the Yisrael Shvatim. Yeah, talking about the Yisrael Shvatim. Anyway, there's famous stories about the Yisrael Shvatim. They bring, who is it? Somebody wrote a sefer even. Who was it? They sent one over one time. They had to speak something. Anyway, There's a certain Rishon. Yeah, what's it called?
Eldad
Hadani, right, from Shevatim. Right. Look, there's a lot of talk about the Ser Shvatim. But the Gemara says that if John Smith comes up to a woman in the street, David, here, if John Smith comes up to a single woman in the street, and gives her Kedushin, we're Choshesh. Why? Says Ravasi, because maybe it's from the Ser Shvatim. Now we have Machlokas Rashi and Tosfos. Is it midin kavua? Is it midin kol kavua kamechsa amechsa? The Gemara says dakwa the Ser Shvatim or kavua, right? So where exactly is that? Right? Rashi says that it's where was Rashi? Right. Sha'asu avodas it sounds like Rashi would be a little bit more chamer. The Gemara says, where are the Aseres Shvatim Kavua? Yeah, where are the Aseres Shvatim Kavua? Rav Scheinberg said in Shanghai, they talk about over. What's that? That's what he told me. Rav Scheinberg knew a lot of things. Was Scheinberg in Shanghai? No? What? No, but he came to the mirror. Was it after the war? Was he one of the Jews in Shanghai? He was, yeah.
No.
Anyway, Rashi says this halachas b'din kol kavua kamech al metzalami. Now, the halacha by kol kavua is that if there would be one goy yedua living in a place and there's 10 million people, that makes it kavua, right? So you would be choshesh. Right? We're going to get to the din of shtuki and asufi. We did actually shtuki and asufi. We spoke about that already. Shtuki and asufi. Yeah, but that's also midin kavua because we're choshesh. We don't know who the father is, so maybe the father was a mamzer. Okay. In any event, that's how Rashi learns. Tosfos is a little bit more makel. Tosfos says it's only a place where you know that there's many of the Yisrael Shotim there. In any event, there is one Rishon who brings us down Halacha L'Maisa, the Aguda, but nobody else brings it. Not the Rambam, not the Rosh, not the Tur, not the Shulchan Aruch. Nobody says that if a goy comes up to somebody in the street and gives, even in a synagogue under a chuppah, yeah, that we're choshesh for kedushin. Maybe he's from the Yisrael Shvatim. No one paskins that halacha l'maisa, and the Ritva says, in fact, that we don't. Kol kedusha goy shvarto salol ein choshen lo klal. We're not choshesh. If we know somebody is a goy, then it's definitely not kedushin, right? And seemingly you don't need to get it all. Now, again, anything Rabbi Yashiv told me, he said anything said in his name wasn't said by Rav Afrati, Rav Morgenstern, and one more, Shos Yitzhak, was that? Rav Darcy, yeah? And maybe also Rav Norbert. Yeah, those are the ones you can believe in his name. Otherwise, he said, it's Mafukbuk, right? So someone told me that he went to speak to Rav Yashiv, yeah, and Rav Yashiv told him that we're choshesh for Zer Shvatim, every Kedusha thing. Okay? I'm just telling you that. We have to research it. We're going to go ask Rav Afrati. But I'll go upon him, that's what they told me. So, if it is, that's a Das Yochid. Rabbi Yasha was. Now, the truth is, today, it's going to be very hard to come out of Beis Din, yeah, without getting a get. Because, there's always factors. And I was actually, by telephone, in Beis Din on Thursday for this case, yeah. And I'm going to stop here while I'm still safe, hopefully. Okay. In any way, yeah, look, they want to get because there's this time and that time, and this one says this and this one says that. We're very, very stupid today. So Rav Rebbe used to say from the Chassid Yavitz, he said the best thing we can do in this door is just be quiet and not say anything stupid, right? So we know very little today. If you get a get, you're safe, right? You get safe. There's also a problem of loss. Okay. I'll go upon him mitzad this halacha. Seemingly, this is not halacha l'maisa. If a goy is mekadesh, right? If a vade goy is mekadesh, a Jewish woman, we're not choshesh. There is agav the Ritva b'hamshach hadvarim, and someone a few weeks ago just asked me about this halacha. Very interesting thing he says, and it's brought from the Miri as well. Why are we not choshesh that it's kedushin? So the Ritva said from the Miri. The Miri says because you could be mafkir your Yiddishkeit, yeah. Also could goyim gemurim, right? Right? He says here, on the third page here. He says here, V'yesh mefarshim. La'od el shekibu kabbalah isabiyam shekol osan shenitmu bam nitmu legamre anashim ad shebeistin sheba'oso dor asuim keguyim gemurim. Beistin has the koyach to make someone a goy. Yeah, right. Person could be Jewish, and then he wakes up in the morning, he looks at the newspaper, he's become a goy. Yeah, it might be a good idea for some people. Our friends in Tel Aviv today who are making a parade. But anyway, so the point is like this. The point is that it seems there is such a thing. The Chasim Sofer brings us psak halacha maisa. You can make someone a goy. Okay. How is this used? We'll get to Hilchos Yibum. We discussed already in Hilchos Yibum, but that's very nogea. It comes up in Hilchos Yibum, but we'll get there. But Al Kopanim, so the first sod that this couple is married has fallen to the wayside. Yeah, has fallen to the wayside. Right? The first side was he could be a goy gamor, makash v'chosh v'kedushin. That's fallen to the wayside. We don't paskin that, not the Rambam, not the Torah, not the Shulchan Aruch, not the Nosei Kalim, nobody except for the Aguda. And even the Aguda, by the way, who was one of the Rishonim, he says here, Kusi shekidus b'zman hazeh chosh v'kedushin v'dafka mokam dekviya seres hashvatim. Where is that? You know, so Rav Scheinberg says in Shanghai. I don't know. Sorry, but the point is like this. The point is that that's out. Okay. So now we have step number two. Which is a little bit more nogia to this case, this specific case, right? What about stam a guy comes into Beis Din, or you're a rabbi in some little town somewhere in America or anywhere in the world, and a couple comes and they say want to get married, and the guy says he's Jewish and the girl says Jewish, right? He has a big nose, she has a big nose, right? What else? Jewish. What else? They like matzo ball soup. What? Accountants, doctors, lawyers. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, and they have a Jewish last name. Rav Noach Weinberg would say if he has a Jewish last name, he's probably not Jewish, probably because he may have married right. He was Jewish and she wasn't. In any event, that's what happens. Two very she's wearing one of those stars around her neck, Magen David, and he has I don't know, some Jewish thing about him, not a kippah, right? Not tzitzis, He has a JDL badge or something. Okay, whatever it is, right? They come to Beis Din, two proud Jews, they want to get married, yeah? So how do we know? How do we know that they're Jewish? So comes along, we have a very famous sugya in Pesachim. It's a very interesting story, right? You have it here on Daf Gimel on the days. The Gemara says that there was a goy. It doesn't tell us his name. Yeah, remains anonymous. Yeah, there was a goy. He was one day boasting. He was boasting to Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira, the Yavav. Yeah, Yehuda ben Beseira. Yehuda ben Beseira, Yavav, right? The Grivav they would call him today if he was alive. So he went to the Grivav and he says, I eat Korban Pesach, So the Grivav is a very smart person. He said, well, did you ever eat from the tail fats? From the olive? No. You were missing out on the best food. Anyway, so he goes to Rishon and says, I want tail fat. He said, that's us. Who told you that? The Grivav. You remember? That's interesting. They looked into it and they saw he's a guy and they killed him. Yeah. I'm not sure. Anyone saw Pshat why they killed him? Someone said maybe because he stole his Chayav Misa, or maybe because it was like martial law or something like that. Whatever it is. But Lamaisa Tosus brings a raya from this Gemara that anybody comes and says a Jew is Neman. Now, I would think that might be true by Korban Pesach. Who says it's going to be true by marriage? I guess we'll have to see when the Beis HaMikdash builds. They'll set up, Lishkas HaGazis to know who's Jewish. But Al Kopanim, Tosos Lamaisa, Rabbeinu Tam is doicha this raya, right? He says a very interesting klal, right? Is Tosos says you can't bring a raya from there. Why not? What does Tosos say here? He says, Ein raya, right? Why is that? The Shani Yocha, Drov Yisrael Hayu, Mazlina Basaruba, right? There were Rov Yisrael there already, right? Lamaisa, the Ritva is docha the Tchia, and the Ritva says that what? Where is it? Right. that anybody who comes and says he's Jewish, we believe him. Why is that? Was the Ritva here? Maybe no, it's the Ritva in, what was that? I think no comes. Right? The Ritva says we have connected that rove. We have a different rove, which is what? 1 second. And we have the Ritva in front of you. I'm not sure. Maybe I didn't put on that Marmar Komos. I could be. I found it later. He's Doichetosis is. It's the Ritva in Pesachim. I don't know. It's not there.
It's on the bottom. First page.
Oh yeah, 1 second. I think it was on. Kasser Mikan Ne'man the Kolman the Asiv Amar Yisrael Ani Ne'man. Okay. Oh, Vikash I don't realize the Mishnah. So it's right down the Hasan the Muchsak line Ba'avos, right? There's a difference if it's Muchsak as a goy or not. There's a difference if it's Muchsak to be a goy or not. So that's when we don't believe him. If it was Muchsak to be a goy, we don't believe him, right? But if he was not Muchsak as a goy, then we'll believe him. But what about Tosos Kasha about the rove? 1 second. Right, Tosos Yavamas, I'm sorry, Mem Zayin Amalaf. He says, Ve'ein lo mashani yosin Davi Samcha Aruba, Davi Israel, Davi Kol Malkom Nami Karuba, Haboyim, Lefanenim, B'Taras Yadis Israel, right? And Ramosha uses that tshuva actually, Alach Lamaisa, right? Ramosha says that that if someone comes in front of us and says he is a Jew, then we believe it because people are not so proud to be Jews in the world today. It's a very it has to be done in each case, because sometimes if a guy really wants to get married and he goes on a dating site, he might really want to be he's Jewish, So it depends on the situation. Again, I'm not taking sides in this. I'm not taking any sides. But it depends on the situation. But Ramosha is Somech. Ramosha says that if someone comes in front of us, if a non-religious person comes in front of us and says that he is Jewish, or she in this case, this is in Even Ezra Chelik Aleph Siman Vav, right? So he says that we believe. V'kol ofen yosu noter she'enu nachris v'guras ha'yisar l'chumra, right? Okay, but he says that we believe. What?
Your Jewish God come in.
Right. He says we have a rove. Mishum da'akam lo yamru al atzman shehem Yisraelim b'kol medina sheyadua sheruba da'akam ulai kulam hem uvay shalomar shehem Yisraelim kol shkein be'isha shenesu la'akam. Right. Kalam kim akam lo torah al atzman she Yisrael. Nobody would say they're Jewish if they're not really Jewish. That's what Moshe is. Now it's interesting. In the next tshuva, it's actually. Right. This question was asked to me this morning, that 2 tshuvas later in Sifchas, Moshe seems to be so sure himself, and say that we don't believe him. But again, I think that's when the first case when he didn't have a cheskes, he just was a woman who wasn't shomer mitzvahs. We just don't know what she is. The second case when you have a cheskes goy, a cheskes nachri you don't believe, right? A cheskes nachri you don't believe, right? So you have to know what's called the cheskes nachrim. Is it your passport? Is it, a rabbi? Is it friends? Is it parents? Is it grandparents, right? I'm being careful how I speak, but not careful enough. But Lamaisa, what creates a cheskes Yisrael and the cheskes nachri? That's for Beis Din to decide. And B'ezrat Hashem on Sunday we're going to Beis Din to decide that. Okay. Anyway, so that's Rav Moshe. So that's one raya. One raya is from the case in Pesachim, and then there's a second raya from a Gemara, which we had not so long ago. We spoke about, actually, I think we had two shirim on it. There's a Shayla Mamash Lamaisa I got maybe about a year ago. Somebody called me up and said that, okay, 1 second, I'm going to get in trouble. I'll change the story. Okay. The question is, what?
The question wasn't,
yeah. No, I'll just tell you what the Shulchan Aruch says. There's a halacha that if the person's it's bas nachri, right? The mother is Jewish and the father is not Jewish, and then there's a daughter born, and she marries a kohen, right? So she's a suffix chalul, marries a kohen, right, and they have a child.
What's the second call again?
Because Bas Nachri is a Machlokas Rishonim.
Oh.
Machlokas in the Ramban and the Rashi. Yeah. So Lamaisa and there's a whole shaila. It says Imisus Lo Teitze. What does that mean? Does it mean they really should, but they won't listen? Okay. Anyway, so we had that shaila. That shaila came up, right? That shaila came up. So so one of the rayas, was from this Gemara on Daf Mem Zayin, right? About one of the kashas, and this was from the Gemara, but in this Mem Zayin Yavamas, it says that if a guy comes and says that I was a goy and I converted, yeah, right, and he says it was a good conversion or whatever he says, we don't believe him. We don't believe somebody to say that I converted by myself. There was no basin. He says we believe you for yourself, but not for to pastor your kids. Yeah, so you're not to pastor your kids, but we believe you for yourself. So there's a riot there that we believe ourselves.
What does it mean to Atzma? It means, do you need Aiden for 12 for Garrus?
You do need Adam, yeah.
What does it mean to Atzma?
He was the best.
Look, he turned into turning time. He was watching Shirim about these type of subjects, And I get, by the way, now I'm getting letters from non-Jews as well because I started talking about Mashiach, so the non-Jews are getting interesting. And they sent me interesting questions like, okay, I'm not going to say anything, I don't want to get in trouble, but the point is like this. The point is that we have what?
Atzma doesn't live no Aiden.
You need to have Adam.
No,
it means there were no Adam, so it's Pasal Geras.
Why would he even believe?
What?
Why would he even believe that he was Jewish if he didn't say?
One thing, he was muhzik as a Jew. A guy comes, just one second. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei nefashos v'avos v'esrona al kol ma yishbo alach b'nefesh kol chai baruch Hashem. Okay, he was muhzik as a Jew. Instead of John Smith, we have Yonason Smithberg. Yeah, and he has children and grandchildren and this, and one day he says, you know what, I'm really a ger, and I'm not a really real ger. Now, I'll just tell you, Rav Moshe Sternbach, Rav Moshe Ben Dvorah, should not be gesund for Shlema. So he told me that in a certain country where he was the Rav, so almost every third or fourth Kedushin that he did, he found that one of the grandparents wasn't Jewish, because there was a certain tekufa in the history in Klal Yisrael, right around the wartime, before the war, after the war, where things were a little bit weaker, I guess, because there was world chaos. So things happened which really shouldn't have. Okay, so it is kedai to look into it. Yeah, but if you come to Beis Din and say, right, if Yaakov, you would come to Beis Din and say, I'm really a goy. Yeah, yeah, Yaakov. Well, yeah, I'm really a goy. By the way, did I tell you the story? There were 3 yeshiva guys. They found out that their mother was really Jewish. Yeah. And these guys were long pants and hats, and shuckling. Anyway, so they made an appointment for the next day to do the Geras. Yeah, but that night they weren't Jewish. What are they going to do? So one guy sat the whole night and learned. Yeah. The other guy went and he partied. What about the third guy? So they asked the next day, what did you do? He said, I tied my right shoe first and I davened mincha after Shkia. Anyway, so Lamaisa, but in general, right? It wasn't Chassidish, yeah. In general, you're not believed to say you're a goy. You can't just get up and say, you come Shlomo, you come to base and say, I'm a goy. Yeah, say, get out of here, Oh, actually, no, the truth is you are believed for yourself. Right? But you're not believed for your kids and your grandchildren.
What's a Shavia Nasha?
A goy? What's the answer of a goy?
They can't marry a Jew.
It's not us to be a guy.
It's not us to be a
Maybe he wants to be able to do whatever he wants.
What?
Maybe he wants to do whatever he wants.
Right, we don't let him, I don't know. It's a problem. Shavia Nasha, you're not allowed to keep
He's also
Shavia.
making a lot of things better now that he can.
I don't know.
Do whatever he can do.
Actually, I have there's a person who is Magayar L'chomra. He told me what they do is they make you wear tzitzis in Rosh Hashanah. Because you have to be Bechal Shabbos if you're a goy. Goy Shel Shabbos Chayav Misa. So you wear tzitzis in Rosh Hashanah. If you're a goy, then it's carrying. If you're not a goy, then it's not. What? Okay, that's a different show. We spoke about it. Okay. I ain't kind of so Shabbos. Okay, we're running out of time. So let's just finish up here. Okay. So we have Rishonim, El Maisa, the Shulchan Aruch is Machriya, yeah, that we believe you, right? That we believe you. It's Machriya. The Shulchan Aruch says, Ovid Kol Moev, Skachavim Shabo Avam and Skyra, based in Shalploni, Karoi, Eino Neman, right? If a goy comes in, right? But if someone, V'imrinu, knows in Kedara, right, Eluches is Ger Tzedek, okay. Right. So If the person doesn't, aval misha bo aval mishua. But based on that one, if a person comes and says, I was a goy, but I was a guy, we believe them, right? We believe them, right? And then the Shulchan Aruch brings the Rambam, who says, in Chutz La'aretz we don't believe you. What's the problem? And okay, the Shach and the Bach argue on the Shulchan Aruch, right? What's the issue? So the issue was that in there's a Chuas Rambam brought in the Franco Rambam in Arabic. Some of the Chuas Rambam in Arabic. I don't know Arabic, but it's translated into Hebrew. But he says there that it was only for Geras, because the Geras was very shvach in Chutz La'aretz during the time of the Rambam. He says a goy walks in, so he says a person walks in and says Jewish, you believe them, according to Rambam. So it's everybody. So basically, we have everybody. Shulchan Aruch quotes the Rambam, but the saying not like that. But the Rambam himself says in a tshuva that you are believed. Someone, as long as they have a cheskes akum, they are believed to say that they're Jewish. Yeah. So you have basically all the Rishonim and the Stimas of Shulchan Aruch and everybody, according to the Chuvas Rambam, that if you come and say you're a goy, a yid, then you're believed. And Ramosha says on the Tshuva Aleph Ches, only if you have a chetzkes nachrid you have believe, but others believe. So Lamaisa, it's a little bit, it sounds like somebody comes who should believe him. He's Jewish, yeah.
You don't ask him anything?
So now all of this is halacha, right? Right, but there's a Tosafos in Shabbos, Kol Dayan Shadan Din Emes Lamito Nasa Shutu Ma'aser Bereishis. Tosafos says Emes Lamito. What does Tosafos say? Anybody know? He says, Din Maruma. Yeah, Din Maruma. You have to know. Yeah, not every single. Just because it's halacha doesn't mean that it's the that is the truth. And a famous story I heard from Rabbi Yitzchak Berkowitz, the father of Shlomo Zalman Auerbach. Someone came into Beis Din and said her husband was Magarsha in front of him, and she has an emunis, right? That she wouldn't be mechutzav to say in front of her husband thing. Rav Leib Auerbach didn't believe her. He said, there's a minhag, just when people get married, they do 7 times around the chassan, they do backwards, they unwind, He said some do 7, some do 3. What'd she do? She said 7, 3, 3. Okay, so you're lying. They caught her lying, So that's din maruma. So look, probably most of the chachma in such a case would be, is he telling the truth or is he lying? Right? Is there an agenda? I'll reveal a little bit. I don't know if this share is going to go up. I don't know. But I spoke to the world expert in Yuchsin, who's someone who's supposed to be well elected. He said, if you read the material that was presented and the way it was presented, it's very one-sided. I won't tell you which side it is, but you can get a clear reach, as it were. You get a clear indication what's going on from the surrounding material. So again, the halacha is, right, all the Rishonim come out, no, really, except according to the Shach and the Bach, we have a Chuvas Rambam. Not like that. Everybody's saying, just one second, Shalom. Everyone's saying that you're believed, and but halacha l'maisa, it depends on hakol fi al makam v'azman ish v'roi and samar. To be continued, maybe. We'll see. Amen.